All right, y'all just saw part one, hopefully, of Domination Station setup. Let's go in and start tweaking things around a little bit. And what we did to do that was we dove into our first cheat sheet of the week. We went through Geeks FanDuel side, since that's the side I happen to be working on right now. And we just want to double check a few things. We see that he likes Patrick Mahomes, he likes Aaron Rodgers, he likes Justin Herbert, which I also like Justin Herbert. I did not include him in some of those stacks, so I need to go back and add that. Might as well do that while I'm thinking about it right now. How would I do that? I would go into my correlation stack settings. I know he's already checked, and I would add a rule down here at the bottom like this, and then, I hate it when it does that. It added it at the top, whatever. I select Justin Herbert from that list, put him in about 6 to 8 lineups or so. Let's call it 8. Let's check the game stack here really quick and see they're going up against Atlanta. I don't have any Atlanta guys selected. Not to say that they can't have a good game and get into some kind of a shootout. But so let's cut that down to say about 5 lineups at first. Teams that, and again, this is just a feel thing. It's just a spitballing thing. Let's say we want 1 to 2 players. And we got Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, Eckler. I'm going to cut Eckler down to about 25% because, again, the pass catching running backs, are great, but they don't always go boom when the quarterback goes off. Williams and Allen are who I hope to see a lot of. Obviously, Keenan Allen's the main stack partner there. So now when I set up my domination station to run again, it'll include some Herbert stacks. Scrolling through the rest of this, Tannehill, Cousins. I'm not a big fan of Cousins. Don't think there's much of a chance he breaks the slate. He could have a good game. Jefferson and whatnot, or Thielen are great. I just am leaving him out for myself just because. Henry, Jones, Robinson, James Robinson. I might go back and include him some. I'm also looking at these all format plays as a little bit of a cash checklist. Who Geek is telling me are good enough for cash, and of course, I would prefer 4-star plays over 3-star plays. But Eckler, Taylor, Swift. So you might put Swift in some tourney lineups. Montgomery again in case he smashes again. These are just little things, right? Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. These are just you look at Allen Robinson. These are names that you can get a good idea. We like Corey Davis. You can see why. We like Robbie Anderson. You can see why, et cetera, et cetera. Just going on down the list. I like that he put Mike Williams in there. I think that's a little bit lower owned situation that could have a big game. In your Herbert stacks is a little bit of a contrarian. Get off of the Keenan Allen. Better yet, use both. And just kind of, again, looking down that list gives me a good idea, a couple of things to double check as I go. Now, when I've run my lineups and I come down here and I start looking through the lineups that I ran, the 75 lineups, I first would check my quarterbacks and see, okay, it's a lot of Mahomes, good bit of Brady. I'm fine with all of this. Would I like to see more Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray? I don't know. If I do, I can adjust things, adjust projections. We'll pull them in more of those non-defined stacks. Adjusting the minimums will oftentimes force them in. That's dicey. That really puts restrictions on the domination station. I'd use that as a last resort. I would adjust projections first. I would also put a cap on somebody that is too high. Let's say, in the first run, I got like 80% JD McKissick. So I just capped him down to 25%. And just by doing that alone, why 25%? I don't know. It could have been 10%, 30%, whatever you like. It's a feel thing, guys. But what I'm looking for is I bring him down, and that's going to allow others to also come up. So it's a two-headed monster when you work with this domination station. Sometimes you put a cap on a guy and it brings other guys into the fold. That's why you want to make these changes slowly and run it again and change and run it again and change. So when I start looking, I see Austin Eckler's up in a lot of these lineups again. I've got him in 100%. I might cap him back down at, say, 40% this week. Melvin Gordon's in an awful lot of lineups. That's a big chance to take if he's only going to be 1% owned. I don't mind it so much in the Millie Maker. If he goes off, I'm in 28 of my 75 lineups. I'm set up really, really well if the rest of the pieces go off around him. If you don't like it that much, then squash it back down to, say, like 25% or 20% or whatever. Jonathan Taylor, same type of situation. You might bring him down a little bit. This is just how you're going to start adjusting and tweaking and controlling these lineups. So if I have, well, that just skipped on me, but if I have this, bring him down to say 20%. You know, Aaron Rodgers up there. This is how you're going to just kind of ebb and flow and weave and wiggle. See, 11% ownership. If you think that Gallman can hit the ceiling, you boost his projections up and then bring his projection up over that 16%. You could get it to 20, 25, whatever. I would do that instead of playing with the minimums, is what I'm saying. They're way under owned on Derrick Henry. If he's going to be over owned in cash, that's okay. I can bank on the Tannehill situation, or I can go back and remove some of those restrictions and boost his projections and bring him back into the fold. Again, completely up to you on what you want to do. Do that for every position: wide receiver, tight end, defense, whatever. Now that I've added back in the Herbert stacks and put some caps on some of my guys, I'm going to redo that. And the one thing I did not show you, in the lineups, I was getting an awful lot of 3 stacks, like a Leonard Fournette and then 2 Carolina guys. That can't be right, because who's Carolina playing? Show me who Carolina's playing. Denver. I saw like a Gordon, that's who it was, like a Melvin Gordon and then like a Samuel and Robbie Anderson or something like that. I don't want to see these 2 pass catchers in the same damned lineups. I don't like that at all. And it's going to start, it's happening again. And I even put the rule on here. I guess I need to leave that rule open. But I put that rule on the player limits to where I've got only 1 player from Carolina in my lineup. Use at most 1 player from Carolina. So let's run that again and see if that changes things. If not, I'm going to have to think a little bit more outside of this video on how to limit that, because that rule should work in conjunction with those correlation stacks. So if we've got 70 now, see, now they're gone. I've only got the, but I'm not correlating my stacks now. For whatever, damn, it used to do it. It used to let me run both rules open at the same time. So we're going to have to play with that. We're going to have to figure that out. If so, I would just probably put a cap on, 50% one, 50% the other, or maybe uncheck one or something. But I personally don't want to see Samuel and Robbie Anderson in the same damn lineup in all of my secondary stacks all the way through this list. That just does not thrill me in the least. So for now, I would go ahead, I would undo this one. I don't think that's going to allow me to put them both on the same. No, it's not allowing me to put them both on the same damn one. Maybe it was legacy and team players that was allowing me to do it, but very frustrating. If I could get him open with the correlation stacking, that'd be great. But since I can't, all I'm going to do is come down here for the purposes of just this video and show you how I would start handling the situation. I've already got them 30% and 30%. Let's say the one that I'm the least, they're both going to be owned fairly high. So let's just go under ownership on them. Do it that way and leave it alone. And if it shows up in a couple of double stacks, it shows up in a couple of double stacks. I can always uncheck the lineups and not include them in my CSV file that I download. I can do little things here and there and kind of get around all of these different rules inside the domination station and still use it to its, the best of its ability, with getting, kind of a little bit of a workaround, using some duct tape on the situation, if you will. But now we're back to the stacking. We've got Herbert and Eckler up there. That's not a bad stack. I'd like to see Keenan Allen or Mike Williams with them, but that would require, and damn if it didn't do it again and it didn't include it in a stack. But hopefully, it's going to be in there in the beginning quite a bit, I'm sure. But there they are, 10%, 7 lineups each. Hopefully they're not all in the same damn 7 lineups, because that would require a lot of more specific fine tuning that's just too fancy for this video to show you guys. Number one, because I don't know exactly how I would go about doing it, but number two, it would require time and a lot of time to kind of finagle and figure out as we go. But if I'm checking these lineups, Brady and Godwin, fine. I want to see some of my game stacks. They should be a little bit further down. Brady, Fournette, Antonio Brown, a little bit interesting. And see, and another thing we're working on, we'll eventually get the ability in the domination station to have a little swap button here where I could just click and take Samuel out and pop somebody else in for around 5,900. And that gets me a little bit different in this, in this lineup. Keeps me, I can leave maybe 1 or 2 of them the same and then pop a couple guys out here or there. Sometimes I'd pop out Anderson, sometimes I'd pop out Samuel. Just a little bit of messing around, because as I'm trying to find it, this is too many. Honestly, it picked up a couple of these guys on its own, but this is when the optimizer doesn't give you great line. That's not a correlated lineup. If Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, and Jamal Williams all went off, I mean, Devontae Adams isn't probably having a game if Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams are both having a game, right? Because there's a lot of running going on, and Aaron Rodgers probably isn't having a game either. So I'm just going to check that line. I don't even want to see that thing. That's a trash lineup. You have to police your lineups to a certain degree as you go through these things. Maybe you don't want to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire in there with Patrick Mahomes. That's fine too. But go through and look and then make sure fundamentally that this lineup is telling a story that can win. That other one with those three particular Packers in it can't win. At least very, very, very rare. It just shoots itself in the foot. Come down here again, looking for more game stack type situations. There's maybe one, Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones. I don't want to see them in the same. I'd have to make another rule that says I don't want those two in the exact same lineup because that's just going to be dirt. You're not going to see that happen very often. For now, it's easier just to uncheck them. But Mahomes and Kelsey, and then Marvin Jones and Devontae Adams, it's a good secondary stack. Gordon and Patrick in the same one? I don't know. That's Denver. I mean, stranger things could happen, but I'm not sure how confident I am there. Derrick Henry with Corey Davis, Ryan Tannehill, those three are not all going off at the same time. So you can see that I've got some work to continue to do in this optimizer. Don't just run your first 100 lineups, set rules, and just take it and throw it in the... That's a fish move, bro. Don't do that. You need to spend the time, invest the time, get this thing to where it is putting out very few of those trash lineups. This is putting out too many of those crappy lineups that I need to go back and make some more changes. And then I need to finagle and figure out how I'm going to go about doing that. And again, that's a very specific thing that's up to each individual user. There is no special formula for this. But if you want to open up the skill part of this game that gets you deeper into tournaments more often than the other fish you're competing with, first of all, don't be a fish. Spend the time, invest the time, ask the questions, learn how to work this tool. But then go in and police your lineups and make sure that your lineups are making sense. Can Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry and Corey Davis win a tournament together? I guess the small answer is yes, but the overwhelming majority of the time that answer is no. It isn't going to work because they don't operate in conjunction with each other, being that Henry's not much of a pass catching back. Hines and Aguilar, secondary stack, Mahomes, Hill, Patrick, Schultz. This one's fine. You know, it could use a little bit of correlation, a little extra. There's Brady, Fournette, Godwin. I don't see any Vikings to run it back. That'd be a sweet little game stack situation. But with McKissick, Jones, and Adams in it with each other, Schultz, Eckler, Seahawks, D, fine. That could happen. These tell the story. Davis and Ferkser going off in the same game without Tannehill don't make a lot of sense. Usually, Tannehill's going to be in there with them. I'd hate it even more if I saw Henry in there with those two. But again, it's very important to police these lineups and go through and find some of the fundamental flaws and remove them. That's why you might make more lineups than you want. You might want to enter a full 150. We'll make 200 lineups and go through and remove the 50 that don't make any sense. You want to start getting in the money more often. You want to start controlling your cash more often. That's how you're going to. That's what your pros are doing. The pros are pros because this is their livelihood. They spend more time doing these things than you do. If you want to be like them, you've got to emulate what they do. Otherwise, you'll never match up and you'll think this is just a luck game. There's a lot of luck to winning these tournaments. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of skill in getting close more often. If you get close more often than the guy next to you, you're going to be a better DFS player than him. And that's where the skill separates. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. We'll come back. We'll do a little bit of, I guess, a cheat sheet review when I see other cheat sheets pop up. But for right now, we don't have them because NBA is kicking in and taking a lot of time. But that said, we had a great night last night. If you want to go play some NBA, you could choose some worse spots to spend some money tonight. But come back and we'll maybe do another little comparison video for cash games and player pools and whatnot. But this has basically been week 14 rundown this week. Hopefully you guys love DFSArmy.com. You want to come in, use the coupon code CHOP, CHOP, and get in here and start winning with everybody else. Learn the differences that it takes to become a better player. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. See you guys.